Hello, everyone. My name is Preston Dennett, and welcome to a new episode of UFOs and the Paranormal. Doing something a little different today. I don't think I've ever done this quite before, but I've got on a couple of guests. Dolly Safran, you know, she's the subject of my book, Symmetry, A True UFO Adventure. She's a lifelong contactee, fully conscious, has not needed hypnosis to recover her memories. She lives them live as they occur and has had a lifetime of experiences with grays, tall whites, and many other different types of ETs, healing events. She learned how to pilot the craft. Well, you probably know this if you've watched my YouTube channel. I've done a bunch of interviews with Dolly. So welcome, Dolly. Thank you.
Oh, hey.
And also, as you can see, we do have another guest, and this is John Yost, who has made quite a recent splash in this field with his film, his documentary, Alien Abduction Answers, which I haven't seen yet. I do plan to see it, but we have him here so he can tell us all about it. I do know it's been pretty well received with great reviews by, let's see, Kathleen Marden and Jacques Vallée, and certainly Whitley Strieber and Grant Cameron. So yeah, he's making the rounds. He's having an effect. I think that's why I'm absolutely honored to have him on the show. So thank you very much, John, for coming on the show.
I am very grateful to both Dolly and to yourself, sir, for sharing your time, and I thank your viewers as well. Thank you. Thank you.
I have great kudos for anyone who steps into this field, searching for answers and helping to publicize it and educate people. So I'm absolutely delighted to have you.
Thank you, sir.
So I thought we would just start how I always, when I interview someone, I've interviewed a lot of people, I'm just fascinated by a person's own experiences and what drew them into this field. So I thought we could start with that because I do believe you had some of your own personal experiences with, I'll call it the phenomena, even though I really don't like that word. I think these are just human experiences that millions of people are having. So yeah, I'm interested to see how yours started and what you thought of it.
Well, first off, I think that you have your finger right on it. I do think it is a human experience. I think that it is prolific. I think that what we're going to find out is most of us have had a brush with other, and either through denial or through ignorance or through fear, we haven't recognized it. Some of it is purposeful and some of it is unconscious resistance to it. So I think you're supremely correct in that, sir. I was completely surprised by that. I would have told you, I would have scoffed at the entire situation. And my sarcastic retorts were really a defensive mechanism on my part. What had happened was this. I was 7 years old, and I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I was born in 1966. And in August of 1974, when I was 7 years old, I was awakened in the middle of the evening. Now, I lived in my parents' home, of course, on the second floor. My family was not wealthy, so we didn't have central air conditioning or anything like that. The windows were open, and I had been awakened by this drone, if you will, and I'll embarrass myself by making the noise. It was kind of like this undulating drone, like a that sort of thing. And I sat up and I was disturbed. I was angry. I was tired. I'd been playing all day, right? 7 years old. It was summer. It was summer vacation. And I kind of wiped the sleep from my eyes, and I went to the bathroom. And I'm getting a glass of water, and the water is pouring for a very long time, and I don't understand why that's happening. I remember noting that it was taking too long, and I don't know why. And then at some point, I turned off the water, and I went to the bathroom door, and I opened the door. Now, something incredible happened. In that doorway, facing me, my 7-year-old mind told me I was looking at a character I'd seen 1,000 times on television. a character named Ultraman. Now, it was a Japanese television show, and he was a giant silver guy with an oblong head and these huge eyes. And I loved Ultraman. I have to tell you something. He was a hero of mine. I thought he would, he fought the bad guys and the monsters. And so I dug Ultraman. So there was no fear. And we got very, very close. And I mean, honestly, like nose to nose. And then something happened. I felt myself falling. And the way I describe it is this. If you or some of your audience have ever been on a beach and the water comes up over your ankles, and as it goes back out, as it retreats back to the water, it slowly pulls away the sand underneath, and you feel like you're falling backwards. That's the way it felt for me. And I was petrified. I was terrified. And I flailed like a drowning man. And when I did, I literally laid hands on this character. And there was this huge flash of light, and I felt like I was moving, and there was all this light, and I saw green and blue and purple and magenta and all this, and I'm whirling around. I felt like I was moving, but I could not tell. And I'm looking and I can't see, and then I'm in the middle of this thing, and as I kind of come back to my senses, I am still in this fight, but something very strange has happened. I am now kind of interpolated with this Ultraman. I am now with my back in the hallway, and his back is in the bathroom. And there's a split second there where I'm like, what the heck has happened? But I'm in the middle of this, and I go to hit him. And when I do, and I say him, I don't know it's a him, this Ultraman guy, he raises his hand and he touches me right here on my left shoulder. And when he does, there's this brilliant flash of light. I feel this energy in my shoulder and my chest. And that's almost like if you're standing, halfway into an ocean and a wave hits you in the chest and knocks you down, down. That's the way I felt. Behind me are these hardwood stairs that lead to the first floor. And I fall ugly. I mean, up and over and banging off walls and this. And I lay in a heap on the bottom landing. And I am screaming my head off like a banshee. And my parents, they had a first floor bedroom. They come running around. They see me. And my father, he's a big guy. And he says, what the hell is going on? And I'm screaming, through sobs, there's Ultraman upstairs. He's in my bedroom. My father bounds up the stairs. My mom is looking at her son just in a heap. And I'm sobbing so much that I can't really speak, like you can't catch your breath. And she's trying to console me. My father's slamming doors upstairs. And after some time, he comes to the top of the stairs and he looks down. And he's overtired. He's disgusted. He's upset because, of course, there's nothing there, right?
Right.
So my parents, after some time, take me to the top of the stairs and take me into my room. And they do what parents do. They look in the closet, right? There's nothing in the closet. They look under the bed. See, there's nothing. And they lie me down, and I'm kind of still whimpering, but I am so exhausted at this point. And the only thing I can surmise is that, all that adrenaline pumping through my body just wiped me out. And I just passed out. Well, the next day, I have to date myself. Kids today, you can't get them off a sofa because they're, with the screens. But, back in the 70s, during the summer vacation, you grabbed a waffle and you ran outside and you played all day until your mom called you in for dinner. That was the way it was.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I felt like I'd been beaten up, but, I just played the day, and my mom called me in for dinner, and she said, listen, you're disgusting. It was August, as I said. It was very, very humid. And so I don't want to take a bath. I'm a little boy, and she's struggling with me, my t-shirt, and she's looking at all the contusions and the bruises on my body. And she gets to my left shoulder. And she pauses and she says, "Oh my God, honey, what happened here?" And I'm looking around and I say, "Well, Mom, I told you it was an Ultraman." She looked very sad. And she gave me a little kiss on the forehead, said, "It'll be okay. It'll be okay." A couple of days later, my father's taking me to our family doctor. And we're pulling into the parking lot. And he says to me, "Now listen, when we get in there, I don't want to hear anything about this Ultraman guy, okay? You keep that to yourself." And, you know, as I stated a couple of times, I'm 7 years old. So I have no idea the import of this, why I would not tell him, whatever. But I said, "Okay, Dad, you know, I love my dad. Sure." And so the doctor is doing a cursory look. And remember, this is a couple of days later. So all of my bruises are yellowing and, you know, healing, this sort of thing. And he gets to my shoulder, my left shoulder, and he says, "Oh, sport, what the heck happened here?" And I start to blurt out, "Well, you know, there was this guy." And my father is in the corner, and he is giving me, you know,
Yeah.
the eye, the eye. And once again, I wasn't afraid of my dad, but I mean, you know, back in the 70s, your father gave you the eye. You know what the heck that meant. Shut your darn mouth. Anyway, so I said, "Well, I was just playing. I got hurt. I don't know." And so the doctor, he took some time with it, the mark, and he manipulated it and tried to see if there was liquid in it, asked me if it hurt, you know, and so on and so on. And then afterwards, he gave me a lollipop and I walked out the door. Um, my dad, we were returning home, and as we pulled into the driveway, my parents' home, uh, my father took a different tone with me. And he said, "Now listen." He lowered his voice. He said, "Now listen to me. I never, ever want to hear about this Ultraman guy again. You shut your damn mouth. I don't want to hear. I don't want you scaring your mother. I don't want you scaring your sisters. You shut up about it." Very sternly. And that's the first moment that I felt afraid. You know what I mean? Like almost like I had done something wrong, right? And and I have no idea of why this is important, whatever. And I said, "You know, sure, okay, Dad, but now, I mean, I got it. Before I didn't get it, I got it this time." And so I lied about it my entire life. Now, people have said to me, well, you know, come on, you're a teenager, you're a young man. Well, this is what happened. It evolved into something. You know, I'm looking at Dolly, and she's wearing glasses. And so this is what I want to share with you how this is. It's almost like muscle memory. You know, this morning you didn't get up and say, "I determine it's a good idea if I should see clearly today, so I shall put my spectacles on." That never happened. That process never happened. What happened is you sat up, you rubbed your eyes and said, "Oh, crap, I can't see anything." Put them on, right? That was it. And you didn't think about it. So I lied all through my childhood. And then I was very active in sports in high school and university. And, you know, people would say, "Hey, Yost, what the heck?" And a shark bit me. I got hit by lightning. Somebody shot me.
Well,
A
can
harpoon.
we just go
Oh,
back for a second? So, was this a mark that stayed on your shoulder that you can visibly see, or?
yes, actually in the film you see it. It's very raised.
All
It's
right.
it changes color. It changes temperature. It's a lot of people say they see a different shape. In the film, we outline it so everybody can see it, but I mean, it's raised. To me personally, it looks like a thumbprint. Looks like a thumbprint, but it's large. I have big hands, and it's like maybe an inch and a half long.
Was it
Maybe.
ever painful?
No,
All right.
never painful.
Scan done of it?
I'm sorry.
Did you have a scan done?
No, I never did. I never did, and I'll explain why in a second here. Um, so,
A few more quick questions, though,
oh yes, sir, yes, sir, yes,
regarding,
sir.
like, when you see this Ultraman guy, was he short? Was he your height or tall, or
Good call. one of the things that I remarked, and I have remarked to other people, is that kind of the surprising thing is that I was the smallest kid in my class until high school.
Right.
And Ultraman was this giant, and he was as big as me. So he was little. We were eye to eye, literally. These two tiny people.
And was he an accurate representation of?
Oh yes, yes. I saw a miniature Ultraman.
Huh.
He was silver. He had the same sort of eyes, everything.
Did you have mental communication with him at all? Did you hear him talk?
At that moment, no. And I think, honestly, I think that these kind of clarifications are going to come in the second part of this thing. I'll tell you the rest, and I think, you'll say, well, that's the answer. That's why.
All right, but before you do, I just do have a few quick comments.
Go right ahead.
It's interesting you say age 7, because I've heard that age come up quite a bit. And this sounds to me like a screen memory, as
Yes.
I'm sure you've probably heard at this time, because I have heard people describe teddy bears, clowns,
Yes.
superheroes,
Yes.
Barbie dolls.
Yes, sir.
And to hear you say Ultraman kind of fits in with some of the stories I have heard of other people.
Yes, sir.
So I do find that interesting. And so this experience wasn't at all scary for you.
Well, up until the point when I felt myself slipping, and then all of the lights and the flashing, and then I was literally, I'm telling you, I laid my hands on this character,
Right.
in a struggle.
All right. And did you have any dreams or anything following that incident about that incident?
Many times.
All right. Can you share what they were about?
All of them were just a recounting over and over again of these steps. And in my dream, I said to myself, don't open that bathroom door. Don't open that bathroom door. He's out there. He's out there. Don't do it. Don't do it. And all of my dreams were unsatisfactory, in that they all ended in that kind of dervish, the whirling lights that I could not understand. And I was frustrated because I was struggling to try to understand, was I moving, what those lights were, why I felt this way, like I was falling.
Right.
They were just very
Have
unsatisfactory.
you had any inclination, or have you had a come to you about what was actually happening since then? In other words, have you made sense of it since that day as an adult?
Yes, that's why I made the film. See, I'm not trying to obfuscate. In fact, I want to tell you the rest. But what had happened was, and I think this is key, and it'll all make sense if you allow me to just tell you this little keystone. Then you'll go, oh, that makes, and then these answers will fall into place. So what had happened is I lied all my life. I lied to my wife. I lied to my kids. Never told anybody. And the evolution of that obfuscation changed from my dad told me to anything, and I mean anything in the world would have been better to say than, hey, you know what? I was abducted. I didn't want to do that. I would have lost credibility. I would have lost friends. I was certain. And that was kind of like this touchstone that I did not want to get close to the older I became. And then, it was always, I don't want to say it was front of mind. It was a very clear memory. I always had absolute clarity, except for, that whirling and how we got interpolated. And that leads me to present day. So throughout my life, to my best knowledge, I never had any other encounters, right? About 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, I was on a regular shoot. And this is what I have to share with you. So I grew up, went to school, university. I worked under the jurisprudence of the Treasury Department. I was a U.S. Customs broker. I traveled the world. I moved people, intellectual properties, and money amongst all kinds of different nations, and navigated all the trade agreements throughout these nations and paid duties and taxes, et cetera, et cetera. I did that for 10 years, federally licensed under the commissioner of U.S. Treasury Department. and it just lost its juice, and it became a job, a job, and I always had a dream of being in film and television. So this is, shoot, 35 years ago. I'm an old guy. Anyway, so I got involved in film and television, and so I've done a ton of stuff in front of the camera. I've directed, I've produced, I've written, all across the country. I've
I'm
shot.
curious, real quick, what types of things were you writing and producing?
Sure.
Or John?
Sure. You, as a sidebar, you can find me on imdb.com, and you can see all kinds of stuff. But most of my stuff is just run of the mill, like did stuff that you'd find on Food Channel, stuff that you'd find on History, Battle of the Bulge, World War II, cooking shows. I did 1,000, if not 3,000 commercials for all kinds of different things, everything from attorneys to car dealers to, credit cards to whatever. I mean, I'm just a guy in the business. I was never a star. Don't want to be a star. Think of me like a blue collar worker. I don't own IBM, but I'm that guy who makes the printed circuit board. So I work for IBM, right? So that's what I did. So you would have seen it or bumped into it at some point because they were all across the country. So I was on a shoot, a regular run-of-the-mill shoot, and I was producing in a place called Borrego Springs, California. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's very flat. It's very arid, as you know, then. And we had rented this big house to keep the crew and the cast all together because, it's like herding cats. I don't want people to get lost out there. And we had done a night shoot. And come back in, it's late, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm inside with the crew, and we're making sure that we have duplicates of all the film because, we don't want to go to the different coasts to do editing and somebody lose something. The rest of everybody, there were about 15 people with us, 17 people with us. And they were out, there was a pool behind the house that we rented, and they were having a nightcap. So I walk out at some point, and somebody hands me a glass, and they're going to make a toast. So I raise my glass, and there's a glint of light in the glass.
Uh-oh.
And my mind is immediately trying to identify what I saw. And I said, oh, well, that's the moon. That's just the. And then I went, wait a second. I checked myself. I said, wait a second. That's not the moon. Tonight's the full moon. I know because I can't. I set this shoot up so we could control the lights. We have these big light banks so we can control the light. There's no moon out tonight. And I drop my glass. And as I drop my glass, I see above the house. I'm facing the house. The pool's behind me. Above the house, about 30 feet in the air, is this kind of blue-green, self-luminous, odd-shaped thing. And do you remember that old show, what is it, Lost in Space? It does not compute, does not. This is my mind. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then my mind is searching for, an association. And I say, oh, that's a get well balloon, like a Mylar balloon, like a get well or a happy birthday balloon. And then my mind checks myself again and says, no, that is as big as a Volkswagen. What the? And one of my camera guys, Scotty, was sitting right here. And I grab him and I turn him. And he says, oh my God. And as he does, the rest of the people around the pool say, oh my God, what is that? Is that a UFO? Oh my God, is that a kite? Is that a drone? All this other stuff. This whole buzz is happening. Now, this little preamble took 6 seconds. This is going on. And as this is, we all focus our attention on this thing. And as I am focused on it, it zigzags. And I mean to tell you, I have never in my life seen anything move that damn fast. It zigzagged and stopped right above my head. And I don't know how long it was there. I don't know if it was like a second or a minute. I don't know. I don't know. But something occurred in that instant. That feeling of the sand slipping out from under my feet jarred me. I had not felt that feeling like that since I was a little boy of 7.
Oh, wow.
And I became immediately terrified. And when I say afraid, I mean like this kind of afraid. I don't know if you have ever been this cold or this afraid or this, embarrassed now, this hungover, where your insides, your literal organs are shaking. And that's the way I was. And then it kind of zipped about 20 feet away. Everybody is still talking. Oh my God, do you see this? How fast it moves? Blah, 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 blah. And then it just drifts off into the desert. And there were, like I said, there were like 15, 17 people there looking at it, all talking about it. And it was very flat, so we could watch it. And then eventually it blinked out. People are humming about it. And I
One
am,
of you have a camera.
of course not. All the cameras and everything else are inside, right? I just told you we were downloading all this stuff. We figured we were, done for the day. And the shoot had nothing to do with any of this stuff. I mean, so I am dying inside. And I make some stupid comment to everybody. I say, well, you young whippersnappers can hang out all night and drink. I've got business to do. I got to write reports. And I went to the room that was mine, and I barricaded the door. I took the bed, and I slid it across the room. And I took all my luggage, and I threw it up on top of the bed. And I sat in a corner on the floor, and I bawled my eyes out. And it was horrible. And you have to understand that this was not a 50-year-old guy dealing with something. This was a 7-year-old kid who had never dealt with anything. And so it was horrible. And the more I cried, the more angry I became. And let me push in on that a little bit. In my business, okay, as a producer, you have to be very left brain, very, very anal retentive, boxes being checked, you're moving a lot of money. Usually it's not yours. So, of course the audit trail has to be perfect. You have to be really on top of it. And me losing control is unacceptable. And I'm really good at my job. So I was enraged with myself. And I realized I could not show this to anyone. Of course, nobody knows about me and my dark secret. And I didn't really connect these two things. I just knew that was the same feeling. And so the next morning, I didn't sleep at all. Next morning, I took a hot shower. I was angry. I was going to go outside. I was going to kick ass, right? And I grab a coffee and I go to the sliding doors and I cannot walk outside. I am inexplicably petrified of big sky. Can't do it. And now I am so angry. I am so livid at myself, unforgiving. I'm forced to embarrass myself and wake up two guys who, because I had to go look for locations that day. I can't go outside. I have to go with two guys. Now they're kind of looking at me a little side-eyed because I've worked for Rhino. I've been in the business for over 33 years, but I've worked for this present production company, Rhino Pictures, for 13. These people know me very, very well. And they even made some silly remark about, well, John, you're not going to listen to our opinions anyway. Why are you making us go? And so I somehow get through the last 3 days of the shoot. And thanks to some very strong triple distilled Irish whiskey, I make it back to the coast. But when I get off the plane, my family and friends, they know something's wrong with me. It got so bad, Preston, that I would get to work very early and wait right beside the door in my truck and wait for somebody to come so I could run out and walk with them inside the building. I could not be alone under that sky. And
Well, can I ask
it,
what you
go
were
ahead.
thinking? I mean, like, why? What was
Nothing,
going through your
nothing,
mind?
nothing. Blind terror, blind terror,
You're not
You
trying to
weren't cut
analyze.
out?
blind terror. No, no. At this point, you have to understand, I am not, and this is what this whole film is about me trying to cope with this and try to figure this out.
You know, you were
So
in a full-blown existential crisis, right?
100%,
You
100%.
understand? Okay.
I could not, and here's the thing: a smarter person would have looked for help. I'm not a smart guy.
Well, that has nothing to do with anything. When you're in the middle of a crisis, you're boxed in, you're internalized, and you can't see outside of yourself at all. You're reeling with a playing reel, as you will, of a movie that you've been playing and playing and playing your entire life. And it's really hard to turn that movie off when you're in crisis. So yeah, it has nothing to do with fear, has nothing to do with how smart you are at all. It has to do with whether you're done with it or not yet. And people don't realize that a crisis means you have to evolve through the crisis. And when you're done with it, then you start looking outward and you start evaluating. So, okay, go on.
So, well, before you do, could I interrupt? Sorry, John, but I'm
Yeah.
curious. Because we had this experience at age 7. How did you interpret that? Did you just not think about it? Did you think at any point this was ET related? Until, when did you start connecting the dots here?
I knew that it was something other, but to me, the category or the bucket that I put it in was it was a bully. It was a bully.
Wow.
I got beat up by a bully. That was it. And I don't know if you've ever been picked on, Preston, but like I said, I was the smallest kid in my class until high school. So I had ample opportunity to be picked on. So it was just one of those things. Now, this fear. By the way, thank you very much, Dolly, for your comments. You possess something I do not, which is wisdom. And in that particular state, I had no wisdom at all. So, and this was compounded because I am no longer the smallest kid in my class. I'm about 6'3" and 270 pounds. So I very rarely feel uncomfortable or nervous around anything, right? And for me to feel that kind of unmitigated fear is intolerable. And so I was very, very, it started to poison everything I touched. I couldn't communicate with people. I was shut down. I'm usually a very outgoing guy because of my business. I couldn't really talk. I had problems. I had a lot of problems. And so the position I took was when I finally said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? I said, look, you were not a smart. This is where I was saying. I know, Dolly, you and I differ on this, but let me just say this because it'll make sense to you, I think. I said, look, you are nobody special. You are nothing smart. There must be people with experiences like this. There must. Now, I'm not, and unlike Preston, I'm not interested at this point in my story. I'm not interested at all in their experiences. I can give a shit. Okay. What I'm interested is how the hell do you live your life with this? How can anybody how can they go grocery shopping and not look around like the world is asleep? Holy crap, guys. Do you know there's a reality here that is total in conflict with what you think is reality? Okay, that's where my mind was. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So I started to read a little bit. And what I realized was even though some of these accounts were interesting and frightening, and but they lacked any kind of heart for me. I needed some sort of human contact to make it real to me. I had to have somebody stare me in the eye and tell me. So I started at that point to try to find people who had had experiences, and I wanted to talk to them. And that led me to interviewing a few people. I mean, the interviewing is what I do for a living. So I would interview and I would offer them a tape of it. I said, listen, you can have this. And then after hearing a few of those, that kind of gave me a little bit of courage. And I started to talk about myself and share that with them and ask them for their input. And then that led me to something that I know to you two seems, because of who you are, it seems completely obvious. To me, it was not. I could remember detail for detail everything that happened, except how in the world did I get switched around with that character? How was my back in the hallway? What happened? We didn't dance. We didn't hug. I was, swinging at him. How the hell did that happen? So in those groups of people that I started to talk to, somebody said, listen, there's a way to do this. And there are people who specialize in these regressions that can be very good and whatever. And I have to tell you, once again, I'm just being honest with you. I lied my entire life, so I tell the truth all the time now. I thought it was bullshit. I said, come on, you're going to hypnotize me? You can't get in here. There's no freaking way. And then they introduced me to a woman, and maybe you guys know her. I didn't know her. Her name is Debs Shakti. She has a global practice, and she works with a lot of abductees or people who say they're contactees or this sort of thing. And she's been around for decades. And she does quantum hypnosis. Now, once again, all of this completely above my head. I don't know anything about that. I don't know. And I'm thinking it's all crap. And then I meet her. Now, remember, I'm about 6'3". This woman is like an elf. She's a tiny little diminutive thing. And I am not a misogynist in any way, shape, or form. I grew up with 5 women, which means I can cook and clean and sew better than anybody. But some of the smartest ladies I know in my life. It wasn't that. It was just that for some reason, my mind said, there's no way this little tiny person is going to be able to help me with something that's so big that I can't even address. I can't wrap my arms around. And she looked at me with this little impish smile and she said, we'll see. And then she said to me, look, John, the truth of the matter is I'm not going to do anything to you. She goes, I'm going to teach you how to relax. You have spent your entire life building this emotional blister around you. This is how you've ostracized people, keep them in arm's length so they won't get too close to you, so they won't ask you important questions. This is you. This is all you. And so only you can get to this. And when you finally relax enough, you're going to walk down that hallway that you built, and you're going to unlock that door that you locked. And then you're going to walk in and open up that filing cabinet. And just all you're going to do is observe and report. So we'd had a couple of practice sessions where, take you back to your most beautiful memory about Christmas or whatever, and I was completely amazed how vivid the colors were. And I could recall what my sisters were wearing that morning and my mom said to me, and it really built a big confidence that this modality worked. And so finally, I was thinking we were ready to do a session, and I had an idea. This is the first moment that I had an idea for a film. And what it was is that I had been suffering so much, and it was crippling, that I realized that there must be other people out there who had never said a word. Much to your point at the very beginning, Preston, that this is almost like a universal sort of thing.
A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, that they had never said a word, that they had lived with certain fears or phobias their entire life, that they would never, ever breathe a question about this. And I thought, look, if I can ask these questions and I can be their scaramouche, I can be their fool, I can look like an ass. I'll ask these questions, I'll find out these answers, and maybe they can sit in the safety of their living room, safety of their sofa, and be able to turn it off, just like your friend, Preston, you said, had to take it in bite sizes. I said, maybe that'll help somebody else, because I was starting to get confidence that I was going to find some peace. And this is so desperate to find that peace. So Debs didn't want to do it. Okay. She didn't want to do it. She said, look, kid, this is not a carnival. We're not playing some damn game here. We're dealing with your psyche, your soul, your, consciousness. This is dangerous territory. We could screw this up. And I want to be very, very careful, especially because you have so much trauma that you've bent up all these years. But then I described to her what I intended. And, if you don't know Debs, let me just say this. You've probably heard this term of Christ consciousness. She's one of these people that will give the shirt off her back for you. She's very service to others person. She only cares about the health and welfare of other people. She's just a loving person. One of those people that you automatically want to hug. And so I appealed to her on that level, and she said, okay. But then she was very, very strict. I mean, nobody else could be there and everything else. So thank God, I work for a big company. It's not two guys named Larry in a van. We have all the toys. So we had to set up all these remote cameras. Nobody could be in the building. I had to daisy chain all these batteries and everything else. And the session took over 6.5 hours. And at the end of that session, I knew that wasn't Ultraman. And I knew that I had been taken many times. And I knew that I had not been taken on any ship at all. And I knew a lot of things. I knew what those colors were. And I knew. And it was, I had to have somebody drive me home. I was so wiped out. And I couldn't look at that footage. I couldn't look at it for weeks. And then I could look at it a little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. And then finally look at it.
Where were you taken? Seriously.
I was taken underground. It was a vast cavern. And the way the immensity was like this. I'm sure that both of you have been into a stadium at some point in your life. If I walked you out into the middle of a stadium at midnight, dark, no lights, and just left you there, and there was not a soul in there, that's the kind of immensity that I'm talking about. It was gigantic. And I could tell that it was underground. I could smell and feel the moisture in the air. And at the very apex of the top part of this dome or whatever, there was an opening, but it was irregular. And I could see like stalagmites, stalactites, and there was a light outside, but it wasn't directly above. It was, kind of off to one side. And so I hope I answered your question. I apologize. I got lost there a little bit.
You did. Thank you.
Yes, miss. So at the end of that, I then felt compelled to really assemble this film with the entire idea of asking questions that contactees or abductees ask. For example, we address screen memories. We address why me. We address missions. We address why am I afraid of the dark, or why do I have these uncontrollable fears? And even though I am in the film, it's a quest. I'm searching. And the film differs from other documentaries, and I'm sure that both of you have seen 1,000 of them. And I have to tread carefully here, because as I said, I'm not a smart guy, so I'm going to use the wrong words. But hear me out. I'm speaking to you from the heart. Most of the people who make documentaries about UFOs or aliens or something like this, they're usually really smart investigators. And for the most part, they're not experiencers, or maybe they became experiencers after they became involved in the thing, but they're not filmmakers, right? So what they do is they create these narratives that are third party. So you kind of see a clip, and you hear Walter Winchell in the background, back in 1947, that sort of thing. So when you leave, your brain is filled with information maybe you never knew. And so you're educated, but you're not healed. I am a filmmaker. I make TV shows and films and commercials. So what I did was, my film is immersive. From the very first frame, the viewers are inside the experience. They're like, in my pocket or on my shoulder, and they experience this tremendous fear, this trauma. And we start off, one of my critics, well, several of my critics, a lot of people, they kind of poo-poo it because they think of it's like remedial. And what I try to share with them is this. I said, look, as evolved as your thinking is, I'm addressing the world, and the world at large is ignorant. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean that is in unknowing, right? So when you're ignorant, that breeds fear, right?
Yes.
So I start the world off where the world is, and I respect them for where they were, because that's where I was. And then we shepherd them through that fear, accepting it as real, but showing the counterpoint and understanding it. And as we get to the other side, there's more and more confidence and more peace and it leads to some semblance of understanding.
In
My
that
film is called,
understanding, is it a positive understanding or just
yes.
a negative? Okay.
No, it's not neutral and it's not negative. It is a positive understanding. I start the film in fear and I end it with hope. And
What is that hope?
well, let me say this way. Let me answer your question this way. My film is called Alien Abduction Answers, right? And I take a lot of guff for that. Oh, I'm the answer man. No. I'm looking for the answers. That's the point. And so what happens is that I have realized that your experience is different than my experience is different. Some experiences are very, very similar. Some of them are very, very different. And there's a lot of variables there. And I've come to some, and part of that is I address that in the film as well, about trying to have all the answers, claiming, I kind of laugh a little bit about the younger people who say, my truth. I'm old enough to realize, well, okay, that's an opinion that no one else shares. That's why it's yours. But I have a real empathy now for folks, because what they're doing is they're grappling with things that they may not understand, or they understand this much of it, and they're trying to translate it into words, and then they try to very clunkily, express it to other people, and so it's lost in the translation. So,
Let me ask you a real quick question. I want to stop you for a second.
Okay.
Has it occurred to you that what you're doing, and I respect it, totally respect it, okay? Have you figured yet that the journey that you took and the journey that everybody took that you've interviewed and put into your movie, every one of your journeys is extremely personal, and that it takes each and every one of you on your own to walk through it, and that I see you gathering them to help each other walk through it? Is that what you were trying to do?
I didn't know that that's what I was doing, because this really is a true journey. Because some documentaries, they kind of had a presupposition at the end. I didn't. I was like, I have no freaking idea where this is going to take me, but I need to know. But that's exactly the way it ended, or not ended, but completed. That vision, that idea was that everybody was here to help each other. That in fact it has to be not emerging, but an assimilation of all of this information, because the truth is within there completely. So it is very necessary for Dolly to speak that. It's very necessary for Preston to speak. It's because we have to. If you don't mind, I'll just share this with you. My mind goes to a silly little example I've used before. The premise is that we take the three smartest people in the world, right? So we already know that the three smartest people. We throw them in the dark room. We say, hey, what's in there? Somebody says it's a spear, it's a whip, it's a boulder. What are you talking about? You turn on the light, it's an elephant, right? Okay. So here, as a filmmaker, I press in for nuances. So let's press in. We've already determined that they're the smartest people in the world. So they're not giving you errant comments. They're really giving you their perfect assertion of the facts that they have. The second thing is this: they're wrapping their arms around as much as of the phenomena as they can. Okay, so they're doing everything within their power to do that. Number three, they're trying to translate these images into something they understand, because remember, they're bereft of some of their senses. It's dark. And we as humans, we are bereft of some of these filters to truly, truly process this information. And then they're trying to translate that into an imperfect medium, language. And then they spout it out to us outside in the hallway. And now we have to retranslate it into something. But the moral to that story is, to your point, Dolly, we need that person who said it was a spear and a whip and a boulder to kind of assemble this truth together. This is why it is so important for us to come together in unity to try to really come to grips with this. Because what we're dealing with, even the stuff that we do understand, is a piece of this. And we need to understand much, much, much more.
Let me ask you another question.
Yes, miss.
Have you determined on your own if there is a way to you and each one of us, everybody, have an ability to wake up your mind so that you can initiate a communion or a conversation
I think
with
that's
what you came in contact with?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant question. I'm sorry to use the elephant example again, but
Okay.
I have learned, even though I like to eat, as you can tell, even though I like to eat, you can't eat the elephant in one bite.
Right.
So my first film about this is Alien Abduction Answers. And what it is just laying out these landmarks that people can find and say, ask these questions. Maybe sometimes in fear, you're so frozen. That's what I was. So frozen that you're like a deer in the headlights. So you can't move either way. Like to your point, you said in that crisis, you there's no logic to anything. You're just falling. You're falling. So I'm trying to help people there. So the first film takes people from ignorance to some sense of understanding. The second film, which I'm working on right now, is called Alien Abduction Awakening. So the idea is that after you have some kind of semblance, some kind of idea of what's going on, well, now you can make decisions. You're no longer afraid. A silly example would be like this. You walk into a dark room and you see a figure in the corner. You turn on the light. It's your jacket on the chair. Okay. Well, now you don't have to be afraid. You can make decisions. And look, and all decisions are fair. You can say, hey, I am never going to that damn room again. That's a decision. You can say, hey, I'm going to hang up that jacket so this never happens to me again. That's a decision. You can say, hey, listen, that jacket doesn't even belong here. I'm going to put it in my winter. You can make decisions. You can participate. And as soon as you learn that you can participate, you take more and more of it. It becomes more and more okay. And then you realize, oh, well, there's a derivative to this, and there's a question I can ask about this. And now I no longer have to be afraid. One of my summary statements in the film, there are a couple, but one of them is this: that I can look at this now through the eyes of a man, no longer a boy. And I do not have to be afraid, but I must deal with this because it is the truth. And so now I have to participate with it, some way, somehow. You know, long answer. I apologize. I'm Irish. If I had whiskey, we'd be here for months. So
I want to add something into what you just said. You shining the light. Okay, that is a very good allegory to what you're talking about. One of the things that I was very blessed to have in my life was guidance that you didn't have. And I had open communication with my father, which you didn't have. One of the things that he said to me, and I would like to pass it to you right now,
please,
is that to know all that is knowable and then proceed is the greatest gift you give to yourself. Because as you shine the light on everything, as you look with the light, your perspective changes. What you understand changes. And you start to wear what you call wisdom in your psyche and your ability and how you feel about things. And that's how we learn, period. Okay. And there's no bully in this. You're the only person marking your trail, you. Okay. And so I just wanted you to know that what you're doing actually is trying to know all that is knowable, and you're proceeding. And I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see you doing it, because I've met many people, and since I started coming out and talking to people that don't do that. They live in absolute, abject, unbelievable fear, and it is heartbreaking, literally. And I'm proud of you, actually, because you're doing a good job. You really are.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, John, what do you feel you have gained from this experience? Is this something that you wish didn't happen to you, or how has it affected you? Have you, gained anything from all of these experiences?
Not your first rodeo, huh, Preston? Well, first of all, I can walk outside now, which is a huge thing. A huge thing.
Sure.
I know it sounds stupid, but for me, it was hard. Also, a couple of things. I realized I'm not alone, which is a huge, huge thing. I realized that this is a communication more than anything. There is, and the reason that we have these slips between communication, misunderstandings is there's a myriad of reasons, but two of them is, first of all, our fear, because that clouds everything, because it's so, I mean, I hate to use this term, it's so alien to us. But the second thing is that so many times you think about Earth, okay, it's our planet, we're humans, right? There are cultures on our planet that we have a difficult time understanding. There are certain cultures that if you belch very loudly after a meal, it's considered a compliment. To me, it would be reprehensible. How could you possibly do that? But there, I would be considered rude, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's a non sequitur. So I've understood now that I need to reserve my judgment and really masticate over these things, because it just could be me. I could just be misunderstanding things. Also, I've realized that there is a reason for these contacts, a reason for this communication. And I truly believe, and in my film you'll see that I have, because I'm a filmmaker, I tell things in stories. I apologize. But one of the things I do is I say this. I say, look, when people talk about answers, it's our ego that kind of wants to say, I own this idea, or I own this answer. And so we really can't do that. We have to be much more open-minded about it. And the example I give is this. Elon Musk, everybody knows who the guy is. He wants to go to Mars. So this little story is that he gets to Mars, and up the door goes, and out of the port, somebody from Kenya, somebody from Asia, somebody who's on the volleyball team from Norway, right? And they all come out, and there's a Martian. And the Martian guy comes out, and he says, okay, who's the Earthling? Everybody looks different. Everybody's a different size. They all are different because of their evolution and their origin on the planet. And they might also have different motivations. Maybe one is just exploration. Maybe one is sightseeing. Maybe one is conquest. Who knows? I mean, but right now, watch this. But the moral to the story is that's one ship from one planet. If we accept that life is prolific throughout the universe, there's no way that any one person can have all that information. I'm not saying that they don't own the relationship or the association that they've had with the people that have contacted them. Of course, because I wasn't there. I didn't share that. This is why you have to be very, very careful with the filter and the discernment in your mind when you're listening. When you guys see the film, you're going to see some of the folks that I interviewed. They had a little similarity, but most of them are very, very different, extremely different. And I had to scratch my head a couple times, like, wow, what does this mean? It's only through this process that I have, and by the way, to your point, Preston, I have gained this sort of empathy, this sort of understanding that this is a huge, huge picture. Right. And the thing, I think, you know what? I think honestly that my conclusion is that the original sin of humans is really our ego. That think about this: everybody who denies the phenomena, whatever, the reason is because of their ego, because they in fact know better, and you guys are all wearing tinfoil hats, and you're idiots, and I'm the smartest guy in the room. Then think about this. The people who locked on to that experience and then they only have the one answer. Why? Because they're the only person? Come on. This is a universal thing, this brushing up. So there's more. What's in the pot? What's in the way? The ego. And then take a look at this. Oh my goodness. And this is the thing that breaks my damn heart more than anything. You have people who have these incredible experiences and it changes their life. And then they allow their ego to get in the way. And they start these things where only they have the answer and people have to adhere to them, and they start a cult or something. Oh my God, it just breaks my heart because it's like they took 2 steps forward and 8 steps back, and then they hurt other people by that. And that's why I say, listen, man, this film is not about me. It's not about me at all. It's not even about the bright shiny lights in the sky. It's about you and you and you and you and you and us. Because let me say this: when the bright shiny lights blink out, we're the only ones that are left.
So how does your family feel about, I mean, have you talked to your parents
Oh,
and have they had experiences?
you know, you're that kind of guy who would see a cut and go, "Does that hurt? Does that hurt? Does that hurt?"
Sorry.
Well, a couple things. Both my parents are passed. God bless them. I suspect, I never talked to him, but I suspect my father had such a visceral and vehement response that he must have had some sort of brush with this thing, whatever, other. And that's why he reacted so over the top. I, as I said, I lied about it or obfuscated about it my entire life. So, I do stuff across the country and around the world. And my family knows that, I'm in the business, right? So, it's like, what are you doing? I'm just, doing a shoot or whatever. So when we got the film, we successfully negotiated for it to be distributed by Virgil Films. I knew it was going to be released. And then I had a thought that I never thought about. How is this going to affect my family? Because they didn't know. So I had to have
Talk. Yep.
the talk. And well, the talk turned into several talks, as you can imagine. And there were a lot of this at the very beginning. And then, and then it took some dark turns. I mean, there were questions about the pressure that I was under in work and things like this, or is dad abusing drugs, or anything that would be a more palatable answer than your father has been, you know what I mean? So, and then that was very hurtful to me because I'm still recovering. I mean, I still get teary-eyed because, I always tell people, I said, look, this body is not the result of one double whopper. Many, 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 over many years. And so that healing process, that coming to terms with it, takes some time. And I lied about it for, almost 50 years. So that occurred. I was just at a wedding not too long ago, and there were people that I've known my entire life who walked up right here and talked past me and would not look at me, would not recognize me as being present. But I will tell you this: on the other side of that coin, there are people who have come out of the woodwork that I've known in my life who have done one of these. Hey, John. And so, I guess I can't answer a direct question. I can't say yes or no, but that's my answer.
Hey, I get it. Yeah. I feel like in some ways I see parallels between you and me because I found out UFOs were real, not through personal experience, but from the experiences of my family. And it was a huge shock. And it took me quite a bit to come to grips with it. And that's kind of why I started writing books because I wanted to understand it.
Certainly.
And I think, having had such a hard time with it, and I didn't even actually experience it firsthand, I can only imagine how difficult it is for someone who's, experiencing it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You
I
know,
commend you for, going there.
well,
Because yeah, my family, some of them weren't happy with me and did not,
yeah,
like, what are you doing?
yeah,
This is important. You need to know this. This is actually happening. This
yeah.
is no joke.
Agreed, agreed. And you know what? That might be a good segue to mention Mr. Whitley Strieber. Um, I had assembled the film, and it was very emotional, very, very emotional. And for me, it felt right. I was just so damned and determined to get it all out there. But then I realized it was almost like vomiting all this emotion over somebody, and they wouldn't be able to take it all in. It would be overwhelming that they. And I also wanted to make sure, like you, Preston, I wanted to make sure that people who were not familiar with the phenomena that they could approach it. And I thought, son of a gun, this is, you know. So I had to separate myself from that very visceral, the effects that it was having on me to a proper director, proper producer, and say, look, this is uneven, and I need to make it edible. I needed to make it watchable, and so I needed a counterpoint, for lack of a better phrase, I'm clunky here, like a sage voice. And I thought about it and thought about it. And remember, I told you at the very beginning, I started to read a little bit, and Whitley Strieber's voice, came up. Um, just because he's been around for so long and he was so prolific. And so I didn't know him. Of course, I don't know anybody in the community. So what I did was I asked a friend of a friend, and then Deb Shakti knew somebody, and we eventually got to. And I'll tell you a funny story since you know him. Okay, the first time I ever spoke to Whitley Strieber was on the phone. I'm sorry, it was a Zoom, and he was very tough on me. And now remember, I've dealt with some of the biggest stars in the world. I'm talking about popular stars, Denzel Washington, Christian Pine, whatever, Timothy Oliphant, etc., Rosario Dawson. And usually I'm very, very nice. I'm an affable guy. They're very nice to me. But he was tough. And I thought, wow, I'm kind of surprised. I had no idea that what he was doing is he was vetting me, right? Because I, the film was released in May, and I have met some very interesting individuals. And God bless them all, because I don't know what they're dealing with, all of them. God bless them all. But I've met some very interesting individuals who would not be completely filled with integrity. Let's just say that. Because of their, background or whatever. And I think what he was doing was making damn sure that I was not some jerk, or some guy working out of his van, or I just wanted to steal his time. And so he vetted me pretty harsh. And I have to tell you, I was such a sensitive position. I was such a damaged kid that I took it personally. I thought, this guy hates me.
Oh,
So, but I told you this is a funny story. So I'm going to get to the funny part right now.
all right.
So here's the deal. So I said to him, I said, Mr. Strieber, let me send you the questions up front that I would ask you. And if, take a red marker, you don't like anything, cross it out. If it's inappropriate, whatever. So what I did was I told you I was a bibliophile off air. So what I did was I purchased every single book he's ever produced. Every single one, all the fiction, all the philosophy, all of the abduction, contact, everything. And I read every single word.
All right.
And I put together about 63, 65 questions, and I mean detailed questions, very, very deep. And I sent them to him. He called me and he said, listen, nobody has ever really asked me some of these nuanced things. Okay, I agree to this interview. And I was very pleased, and he didn't redline a single one. So I went out to California, and I thought, listen, it would probably be a good idea if maybe we broke some bread the night before, so we get a little bit of a rapport going, because I don't know this man, right? And I really wanted him to not be thinking, I don't like this big egg-headed kid, instead of, oh, this is John. I had lunch with him yesterday, or I had dinner with him yesterday. So we did, and that's the part that gets really funny. He He was very sarcastic. He was very funny, and he made fun of me the entire time. I belly laughed the entire evening. It was charming. He was quick. He was witty. I learned a few new words from him. His lexicon is much larger than mine. So it was a blessed evening, right? So now I'll tell you something that's very heartwarming about him. So the very next day, you know, I have a big team, lots of lights, makeup people, the whole bit. And he's commenting, wow, this is, you know, big production, yeah. And so we get ready to shoot. And I lean, there's actually a picture of me on set leaning down, talking to him. And I say, Mr. Strieber, I just want to tell you something, sir. I'm very grateful that you're here. I'm not going to waste your time, sir. And I'm going to make you look perfect. The lights are right. The sound is right. This is all. And I'm in the middle of my little diatribe. And he grabs my arm, grabs my forearm. And he looks at me. He says, John, I don't give a damn how I look. I really don't care at all. I just want to tell the truth. And it really gave me pause. I thought, man, what a man filled with integrity. When I grow up, I want to be you, sir. And it's funny to me. I mean, ironic. You know, I have pretty much regular contact with Mr. Strieber. You know, like every 4 or 6 weeks or something. You know, just let him know. Okay, sir, the film is here. This is what's going on here. We've won this award here. This sort of thing. And I can't call him Whitley. I would never say that we're friends. He and I are friends, but we're very, very friendly, of course. But I can't call him Whitley. I call him Mr. Strieber all the time, and he makes fun of me. And he teases the hell out of me, and I have to say he takes great joy in that. So I love him. I actually adore the man.
No, this has been great. I mean, we could talk for
Wait,
hours.
I have one last thing to ask you. Okay, this is a big one.
Yes, miss.
Right.
Yes, miss.
Before we go,
Yes.
I want to know in the end, as you surveil everything that you've done and everything you've thought and gone through, what is it that you want from ETs? What do you want?
What do I want? I have to say that my premise for the film was that my need to know outgrew my fear.
Okay.
And I have to say that I am still on a quest for the answers. My last statement in the film was this. I say, listen, what is it about these bright, shiny lights in the sky that make me want to be a better person? I don't understand this perspective change. There's more I need to understand. There's more I need to learn. How do I fit into this puzzle? How do I help us achieve the next level? Where do we go from here? What are the next things? I mean, this can't just be communication because you're my neighbor. Hey, nice yard. You know, that's not what it is. There's much more to this. There's a reason that we're on this path. And I'm desperate to know those things, but no longer under the mantle of fear, but one of just honest inquisition. I want to know. I want to know. And I want to participate.
I will tell you something. I've been looking for you.
Oh, are you going to beat me up?
No.
Do I owe you money?
You're a ray of hope in my life, okay?
Oh,
because I've run up against so many people whose rhetoric and belief systems and their egos are right in front of them, and they don't see the forest for the trees at all. And I have been searching and searching for somebody who made sense of all of it. And you do, sir. And thank you. I appreciate you a lot. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who you were until today.
I'm a nobody.
No. It's amazing to me. And my contact has been elbowing me, do this. And I'm grateful to you, very grateful. Thank you. Okay. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn.
And
thank you.
I know what Preston's going to be doing. Yeah.
I want to send you Dolly's book, actually, or the book I
Oh,
wrote. Case.
I would love that. I would love that.
I think you might enjoy it because she does have a lot of information that, you know, having interviewed so many people like you who've had these experiences, Dolly's connected a lot of the dots for me. So I think you might enjoy it.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with you, John. It was
It's a
true delight.
blessing to me, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate you,
I'm
sir.
so excited about the success of your film. So if you have anything else you want to add, you mentioned you're doing another film or
Yes,
any
this
appearances stuff.
sure,
You
sure.
won awards too. That's awesome.
Yeah, I won best documentary at UFO Expo, and then the film was shown at UFO Con, and it got a huge response. And I've been contacted by so many people, and I'll tell you, this is the thing. This is the highest praise for the film, not for me, but for the film, is that just people say, "Listen, I couldn't talk to anybody about this. This hurt me so bad. Whatever. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know where to put it. I watched this film." And it really helped me. It changed. And I just thought, God, isn't that like God's work? Really, it just is, because this is not this is not some sort of contact for John Yost. Nobody gives a crap about me. This is a contact for us, because we as a people have to make a decision. We have to make a decision not to keep looking back, but to look forward, and we have to look forward together. This is the point. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, so yeah, I'm very, very blessed. The film is called Alien Abduction Answers. It's on Amazon Prime and Apple TV and Kino and Google Plus and blah blah blah, everywhere. It was released May in North America. This April 15th, actually, it'll be available internationally. So I'm very happy about that. I am. I just look. I could tell you, I suffer from being truthful now. I spent a $500,000 making this last film. So when you see it, you'll see a film. It's not two cameras and this is a movie. You'll see it. It's immersive. And I'm raising money for my next film, and I don't know. I'm hoping. Hello, I'm hoping that the material will allow me to do that for the next one, because I think it's really important. Because I have an idea for a third one too, which would be the second one will be Alien Abduction Awakening, which is taking this information and saying, "Oh my God," and now I'm part of it, because I'll say as an aside, I know I'm going long, Preston. I apologize.
Oh, that's all right.
But I thought when I closed the book on this film, right, I felt a sense of completion. Like, I dealt with something that happened a long time ago, and that's okay. And now I can just go back to doing sports or whatever the heck. That's incorrect. The door has been cracked, and different things are happening. There's a lot of stuff that's happening to me. And but now I'm not afraid. Now, I'm cautious. I have to be honest with you. I'm cautious, but I am now able to go, okay, now what does this mean? What is this communicating to me? What am I supposed to be thinking about this and putting into place? That's where people are in the very next stage of this thing. And then the final film, not the final, but the kind of conclusion to this sentence is Alien Abduction Ascension. And the idea for that is not woo-woo in that sense. It's this. All of my films are about us, people, us, okay? So we all share common themes in our lives. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care where you live. I don't care your culture, or if you like spicy food or not. Okay? We all crawled on our bellies. We all finally got up and held onto a sofa. We all toddled. We all walked and fell and bumped our heads. We were all children. This is where we are now as a race. We're kind of these children. And we have to understand that it's about time we grew up.
Exactly.
And adolescence sucks. It sucks for me. It sucks for you guys. So this is what my work is about. It's about us. So that's the deal. I'm sorry. It's too long again.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
A true pleasure. Yeah, thanks, John. That was awesome. I'm
I
glad
see.
glad we had this conversation.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for both of you. God bless you both.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Hang
Well,
on, John.
and anyone have anything else they want to add? Now's the time.
Nope.
All right.
Good.
Well, thanks, guys. That was really wonderful. Thanks for watching UFOs and the Paranormal. This is John Yost. His film is Alien Abduction Answers. Check it out. It's award-winning. It's quite well received. And this has been Dolly Safran, who's the subject of my book, Symmetry, who you probably already know. And that's it for now. As I like to always say, keep searching for the truth, keep asking questions, and most important, keep having fun. Bye now.